So in this video today, we're going to talk about taping drywall. And once again, it's a simple process, but there's folks who are just getting started. We want to make sure everybody's included in our videos. So when we talk about taping drywall, there's two different types of joints that occur. The one I prefer is the joint that comes together when you stack two pieces of drywall on top of each other. This is the longest joint in a drywall job. And if you notice, this has a little bit of a concave situation that happens because the edges are recessed. So when they come together, there's this little dip concave. And that's designed to allow the tape to sit down inside there so that you don't have to spread that mud out so far to hide that lifted area. There is no lifted area really here. It sucks right down into that concave area. This joint going up this way is called a butt joint. If you notice here, you don't have the concave because these are cut to fit, or the end of a piece of drywall doesn't have the same sort of recession on it to create that concave effect. It's designed just to be flat and even. This joint is probably only going to be a little wider than this area that you see that's concave. This joint, because we're going to put tape on top of the drywall, has to float out about this far. And so we're going to show you an example of both here real quick and how we go about doing that. What I'm going to do to start out is I need to know how much tape I need. So for this little piece of wall, I'm going to stretch it out, kind of get an estimate, pull out a little bit of extra. And I always use my knife to tear my tape. That just gives me a nice straight edge. Once I've done that, I hang my tape or drop it on the floor or something, just so keep it close. But I'm going to take mud and I'm going to use a 6-inch knife to start out with. The 6-inch knife works well because it fits just right on top of that concave area. And if you can see that it doesn't touch in the middle because of that depression. So I'm going to throw some mud on here and I'm going to pull it across that recessed area. So I've been very liberal with the mud, and that's important because when you put the tape on, you want to make sure that there's plenty of mud underneath every inch of the tape. If there's a dry spot underneath there, when you put the tape on, it will bubble. And that is repairable, but it's really a pain in the tail. So what I do is I drop the end of my tape in, stretch it out, and I want to lay the center of the tape right on the center of that seam all the way down. When I get to the end of my wall, I put my knife up, hold it against the wall, and tear it so I've got nice, perfect length of tape. Now I'm going to pull the mud out from underneath the tape, and notice I head towards the end. If I were to start this way and pull towards the center, the tape will move. So you notice here I've kind of botch this up by going the wrong direction. You always want to go towards the end of the wall, flatten that out, and then go back the other way. And I kind of broke a cardinal rule too. You don't want to do the ends first. On both sides, you want to go do the end on one side and then go all the way across. So what I've done here is I've created a nice bed of mud underneath this tape, and I've taken the excess mud away that was kind of bulging out on the sides. But as you'll notice, the surface of this tape is dry. I don't want that. I want that to be floated. So I'm just going to take some material, put it on top, and pull it all the way across, all the way down, and then lightly go over it again. Once I've done that, I'm going to jump up to my 8-inch knife and hit it one more time, but this time use quite a bit of mud. So in that pass, I put my knife on the wall and I put the top of the knife just over the top of the tape, came all the way across. Now I'm going to cover that whole depressed area, that area where the tape sits low in the center, and I'm going to come across. So that's a completed first pass for taping drywall. In that recessed area, that joint that happens between an upper and a lower piece of drywall. Now we're going to look at the butt joint. So before we get started on this butt joint, I want to talk to you a little bit about tape and the types of tape. So this is paper tape. I like paper tape. A lot of folks feel that it's more difficult than its cousin, which is fiber tape. It's all a matter of preference, but I like paper tape, even though it's very important that you get every inch of it covered or else it will bubble. Fiber tape doesn't bubble because the holes in the center of this mesh allow for the tape to adhere and the material or the air to escape out. The only thing that I find that's difficult about fiber tape is if you hold this and feel it, there's just a lot of little loose ends on it. And once you put it on the wall and float drywall mud on that, all these edges can float up a little bit, and as you're sanding, they become visible and you have to float them out a little farther. So still just a matter of preference. When it comes to that first coat, it is easier to put fiber tape on, but the finished coats, to me, it seems a little bit tougher. I'm going to go ahead and do this next one with the fiber tape so that you can see how the fiber tape works. For this application, I'm going to use an 8-inch knife to start because I need a lot more material and I need more coverage. The more material that I can spread on that top coat and spread that application out, the quicker I'm going to fill it in so that I don't have to do extra coats. So as you can see, we have a nice bed of material. I do have an area here a little shallow, so I'm going to throw a little bit more there to make sure that I can embed my tape. So like I mentioned before, I've got fiber tape. I'm going to go all the way up to the top. I hate fiber tape. And I'm going to try to keep this right in the middle of the joint. This is another problem for me with fiber tape, is that after you've put your bedding material on, as you're pushing this into the wall, you're getting mud on your fingers, where with paper tape, it's a barrier. It keeps you from getting messed up. So same thing, almost the same thing. Put your knife on it and pull it away. Now, with fiber tape, just go over the top of it just like paper. It does embed in easier than the paper tape. Now I'm going to run some more material along the edge of it. So, Jordan, if you'll come a little closer here. As you can see, as I went over the top of this, I've got a little piece of the fiber tape that popped up right there. So you got to watch those and make sure that you get them pushed down inside and go back over them. Got another one up here, and that one's going to come all the way off. But that's good. We're ready to go. That's tape is embedded in the mud on the top of that butt joint. Now, in proceeding coats, I'm going to come out and I'm going to lay mud here and be, as you can see, my mud's starting to go off, but I'm going to come out and be wider, and I'm going to spread this out even wider. I can't really do this now because this is not solid enough to carry the gap, but I just want you to see how wide that I eventually will have to take this to get this to float out. So my joint's going to be somewhere out here, maybe even a little bit farther, and the same on this side, so that I can ramp this tape elevation out into the wall. Okay, so now our 20-minute mud has gotten hard. You can still see the moisture in it, but it's still holding form so we can do our next coat. I feel very confident that we can do one more coat on this joint here that's recessed and be good, and that's texture ready. This one's probably going to take 2 more, but we'll see how close we can get it on this next pass. So here we go. Once again, I'm using an 8-inch knife down here for this recessed joint because it spans the full width of that recession, so it's enough. My wall's moving because we're in California. It's probably an earthquake. That was funny, Jordan. So with that coat, you can see that we've got a pretty nice finish over the top of that paper, and I've got a few little abrasions here on my paper tape, which are causing me a little bit of a headache. So I'm going to put some mud over it. I'm going to go flatter with my blade and lay a little bit more material over the tape. So by putting some more material over it and lowering my blade, I was able to cover up that paper, and it was causing me some issues. Right here, I need to bring my joint out farther than what this 8-inch blade will do. So I'm actually going to jump up to a 12-inch blade. This is 8, you could go up to a 10. This is a 12-inch, and I'm going to fill material in to the center of the tape outward. Ooh, that was loud. So my goal here is to add enough material in this area right here so that I'm hiding the high spot from the tape. What's important is that I don't add a whole bunch more right on top of the tape, because if I do, I'm just accentuating the problem. I need to cover up the tape. I need to not be able to see any of that mesh material, so that's the determining factor. That all has to be flat and gone, but whatever I add to the top of the tape now has to be added to out here so that I ramp it out as far as I can. Now I'm going to back up a hair and do this other side. I'm using 20-minute mud. You can see how it's starting to thicken up a little bit. So that looks pretty good. So we've talked about taping, and we've actually gone a couple of coats. And what I skipped by here that's really important is that during my first application of mud underneath my tape, I would have been hitting my screws, and I just want to go over how I would have done that. What I do is I start with mud on my knife, and I just go up in a straight line and I cover every one of the screw heads at once. The reason for that is that difference in doing that over going is just time. So if you watch a professional drywall taper, they run mud up the wall in a straight line and then pull it off. And it does not have to be perfect the first time, because the mud is going to shrink into the hole above the screw anyways, so it's going to take an additional coat. So same thing, just pull down from the top. So once again, I would have done this when I hit the first coat of mud on my tape. All these screw holes would have been filled and looking just like this. And so you see that pattern very commonly when you come in and see a drywall job that's the mud is dried and there's no texture yet. You have this pattern of straight lines going up and down. That's the straight line there where they've covered the screws with those single strokes vertically. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you would like to check out our products, click on the link below in the description for easy protection. And to check out our other videos, please click on the link up here.